This video will teach you everything you need to know if you want to start using OBD2 scanner. Even if you have never used OBD2 scanner in your life, after watching this video you will be able to work with car diagnostic tool, same as average mechanic here. Okay, so OBD2 stands for Onboard Diagnostic Software version number 2, and all modern vehicles uses this system OBD2. Now there was also OBD1 system, but it was replaced with OBD2 in 1996, so soon it will be 30 years that OBD2 exists. Well, actually it is 30 years already, because OBD2 was first time mandatory in 1994 in California. Now regardless if it is OBD2 or OBD1, they both work on the same principle. You have bunch of different control modules and different sensors in your car. If you take modern vehicle like for example Toyota Corolla, you have 33 control modules and even more sensors placed in the engine, chassis, body and car's interior. Those sensors provides data directly to control modules, which also communicates between each other. And your OBD2 onboard diagnostic system is keeping an eye on everything that is happening in the vehicle. If some data is out of range, for example on the transmission you can have vehicle speed sensor that is outputting voltage directly to one of your control modules. So vehicle speed sensor is connected to engine control module, and let's say it is producing around 5 volts, and suddenly there is no voltage coming in your ECU from that sensor. OBD2 will detect that and instantly set the code for a vehicle speed sensor. Now that code is stored in your OBD2 memory. Scanner basically works like a translator, because this code is already stored in my ECU memory, and all the scanner does is request those data from my car and it translates it to the language I can understand. So I can see on the scanner P0500 vehicle speed sensor code. Now since this code is already stored in my ECU, it doesn't matter if I have $50 scanner or $5,000 scanner. Everything they do is just request the data that are already stored in my vehicle. Now, of course, the more expensive scanners will have some other advantages, but that is mostly using advanced functions. For example, with the better scanner you can unlock new features of your vehicle, you can do used vehicle check, you can find out mileage data, so you can use them to find rolled back odometers and a lot of other advanced procedures. But when it comes to scanning the engine, simple chip code reader like this is completely enough. Now briefly about OBD history, it starts in 1968 when the first OBD system was introduced by Volkswagen. Soon in 1975 the Datsun follows with their system. In 1980 the GM introduces the DiagLink. That was their implementation of OBD across all their dealerships, so they could communicate with the cars of their customers. So that were the times of OBD1, and the OBD1 was very different to OBD2 for main two reasons. First, it was very complicated to use OBD1 scanner, simply because as you can see there was no standardization yet. So each car brand did have different interface and different connector. It wasn't simple like today. You can just go to any auto parts store, buy simple reader for $20 and you're able to connect it with every vehicle. Back then you would pay thousands of dollars for OBD1 scanner, if you could even find one for sale. And then imagine that you are DIY mechanic or like basic average mechanic and you want to work on 20 car brands, so you would need to have 20 different OBD1 scanners. In the 1988 Society of Automotive Engineers recommends standardization of OBD system, and in the few years it was indeed implemented. In the 1991 the California started requiring all the cars produced will have OBD system in order to battle air pollution, and then also in California in 1994 the OBD2 system became mandatory for all new vehicles sold, and soon 2 years later that was expanded to all United States. From then that got spread to the rest of the world. For Europe it was 2001 for gasoline vehicles, 2004 for the diesels. In the following years it then became mandatory in the other parts of the world. So that is OBD history, and also that is explanation what is the difference between OBD1 and OBD2. So we can be happy we have OBD2 because we have standardized system and you just need to have one scanner. And when it comes to global OBD functions, those are the standardized functions I will be explaining soon. It doesn't matter which car you use it on, if it has OBD2 they will be very similar. So this one guide will teach you to work on every car. Okay, so to use OBD2 system system, you of course need OBD2 scanner. I don't know if you already have one or you don't, but explaining which OBD scanner is the best or which you should choose is topic definitely for a separate video, and that will be linked down below. Either video or blog post, I'm not sure yet. But if you don't have any scanner, you will find the best pick I recommend in the description below. Right now, just the explanation of different scanner types, so you get an understanding which tools you can use to diagnose your vehicle's issues. First type is the engine code reader, most simple OBD2 scanner. It works only for your engine control modules. So as we were talking that car have more control modules, this will scan only the engine. However, most of the codes will be in the engine anyway, and they are cheap and they are easiest to use. You don't have any connection issues, you just plug the wire and it will scan your car instantly. You will not have to wait for a few minutes like with some other tools. Then you have these multi-system scanners that is basically really similar to code reader. Only difference is that scanner like this will be able to access more control modules, and that is usually transmission, airbag and ABS. Then you have scan tools. Scan tools will let you access each control module and also give you a bunch of other functionality like bidirectional testing, so you can give your car different commands. You can test different electrical systems, you can do service procedures like this maintenance, see you can do throttle adaptation, oil reset, airbag reset, you have these service functions needed for servicing newer vehicles, and with some of them you can do even ECU coding, so unlocking hidden features of your vehicle. Another type is Bluetooth adapter, usually they pair with your smartphone. This exact one can actually work for a laptop as well. Now the Bluetooth adapters are my personal favorites as they can have really good value for the money paid, and they are also small, so they are easy to carry around, and you can use them with a bunch of different software. You are not limited just to one. Another type is laptop OBD scanner. Also they can have really good value for the money, but the downside is you will have to get laptop. I don't recommend using your main laptop because you can get it damaged easily. I mean, in the garage you can see how the laptop can get damaged, and also a lot of this diagnostic software come from AliExpress, and to install a lot of them you have to disable your antivirus, and you don't want to risk that with your main computer. Then you also have these different hybrid types. Now technically this is Bluetooth scanner because it works on your smartphone, but funny thing is that this little box paired with your smartphone can actually do more than this professional scan tool. If you would ask me what is the one best scanner I can recommend, best value for money, definitely think the ThinkDiag2, but I also have separate review for that and you can also find it in description. Okay, and now you should have your OBD scanner ready, and it is time to connect it to your vehicle. So you have to find your OBD2 port, also called DLC, data link connector. Most of the cars will be OBD2. Now for almost every vehicle that is younger than 25 years, you should have connection port like this. And this port must be close to your steering wheel. How do you find your port? The most common location will be under the dashboard or interior fuse box. That will be the case for 90% of cars. If you cannot find it still, you can use other resources. There are apps and videos for that, I will show you that, but first let's go to the car and I will show you the common locations. Okay, let's get inside. The most common location for OBD port is under the dashboard, and that is somewhere here, which isn't the case for this vehicle, but for most cars the port will be here. If it isn't, I suggest looking in your interior fuse box, and there you can see OBD port. Well, it's kind of dark, let me show you. See, here is our 16-pin connector. Okay, so this is where you would plug your scanner. If you still didn't find your port, next common place is somewhere in this center console, and it can also be hidden under your ashtray or somewhere in this space here. But if you cannot still find your port, what you can do, there is an app, where is my OBD port. You can input your vehicle. Let's try inputting our Punto. And check it out, it shows me location of OBD port. See, we have exact location, and there are literally thousands of different car models here. So if you have trouble finding your OBD port, just use this free app. Okay, now we can go ahead and plug in the scanner. You can have engine on, engine off, doesn't matter. The recommendation is engine off, but I mean I connected scanner literally 100 times to running vehicle and nothing happened. So I guess that is okay too. Connect it and it will start automatically since it is using power directly from our car. Now it is searching for correct OBD protocol. So, what are these protocols? Maybe you already read somewhere when you were buying your scanner that your scanner supports 5 OBD protocols. So these are 5 main OBD2 protocols. You can think of protocols as different dialects for OBD2 language. There are more protocols than this, but these are 5 main, and every good scanner should support every of them. The most common one is this first, that is CAN bus protocol. What is CAN bus? Basically, these are two cables that goes to your whole vehicle and connects all control modules together, which is improving the speed of communication and also reducing the amount of wiring. Okay, and now back to our screen with these protocols. If you see screen like that, don't worry, you don't have to choose between protocols. This screen is here before I forgot to do very important thing, and that is turn on the ignition. Always when you are using this scanner, the ignition must be turned on. So let me turn the key. Now the ignition is turned on. Try connecting again. See, and now I am successfully connected. When I press read codes, it gives me a list of trouble codes stored in my engine. So as you can see, connecting to vehicle is really simple. Just don't forget to turn on the ignition so the scanner is able to communicate with your control modules. Okay, so what you can do with your OBD scanner? Since the OBD2 is standardized, this is the set of standardized functions, and each good code reader must have all of them. Most of diagnostic tools will have this set of basic functions, and also a lot of scanners have another advanced functions on top of this. But this is your alpha and omega of global OBD, and global OBD means the OBD that will be applicable to any car with OBD2 system. So mode number 1, we have engine live data, so you can check different engine parameters like engine speed, data from your oxygen sensors, fuel trims. In my opinion, the mode 1 is most useful mode. Engine live data. With most scanners you can either check them as text values, like this. When I press on the pedal, the values are changing. Now it can be kind of confusing at first, but I will try to explain each of them really fast. By the way, if you have better scanner, each live data parameters can be already explained in the scanners library. Better scanners have information library. For example, in this scanner you can find each of that value explained directly in the scanner. But let's start with fuel system status. Already we can see OL fault, that means open loop fault. OL means open loop, and that means that engine is actually determining air and fuel mix based on learned values and not based of data it is getting. And that is big issue. I think something is wrong with my oxygen sensor and it cannot even read the oxygen sensor data. That's why it is just using learned parameters. Fuel system 2, I don't have that. You have two fuel systems only when you have V-shaped engine, so you have multiple engine heads. This is simple 4-cylinder engine. I have only fuel system 1. Then you have calculated load value. That is basically amount of work your engine is doing. So if I press the gas pedal, we should see something close to 100. Okay, 85. Now we have ECT, engine coolant temperature value. Then we have engine fuel trims. However, if you see 0.0, there is something wrong, and I already can see that based on this OL fault. Usually your engine is determining fuel mix based on your fuel trims. If I would have here 10%, that means engine is using 10% of extra fuel. If you see minus 10%, that means your engine is running with 10% of fuel amount reduction. Why do you have more or less fuel? For example, when you get vacuum leak, more air is getting into engine, that needs to be compensated with extra fuel. Or in the other hand, if you have some problem with fuel system, or you have some restrictions in your air intake and less air is coming in the engine, then you would see negative fuel trim, because engine doesn't need that much fuel because it is not getting enough air. Now long-term fuel trim, that is basically the same. What it does, it slowly copies the behavior of short-term fuel trim. If the short-term fuel trim gets to like 20%, the long-term will make permanent adjustment to fuel amount. Then we have the map sensor, intake manifold absolute pressure, also should change if I press gas pedal. Engine RPM, that everyone knows. Vehicle speed, we have 0 since we are not moving. Ignition timing advanced. For this value you just want to see positive number. If you see negative, that means you have timing retardation, and that is not healthy for your engine. If you see positive value, everything is okay. Now this 12 degrees means that right now my spark plugs are firing when the piston needs 10 more degrees of rotation so it can reach the top of the cylinder. Next we have intake air temperature, that is also really self-explanatory. Oxygen sensor output. Wait. I think I forgot to... Yes, I was unplugging the oxygen sensor. Wait, let me go under the hood. Now let's check that fuel system status. Oh, and now we are at closed loop. That is what you want to see. If you are looking the live data, you always want to see closed loop, and that means engine is running based on what the engine sensors tell it to do, not just on learned values. And check out the fuel trims, they are already moving. If the long-term fuel trim is at 0.0, that is fine. For short-term fuel trim, you should see some fluctuation, because engine should always switch between rich and lean condition. It is healthy for catalytic converter. And now we can also see our oxygen sensor data. Okay, now we will open the graphs and I will also show you how to check oxygen sensor data. So go back. Oxygen sensor data is also very important live data parameter. Open the graphic items, oxygen sensor 1 and oxygen sensor 2. For each gasoline vehicle, you will have at least 2 oxygen sensors. If you have 1 catalytic converter, you will have 2 oxygen sensors. If you have 2 catalytic converters, you will have at least 4 sensors. This is 4-cylinder engine, 1 catalytic converter, so 2 sensors. Now, what is the difference between these sensors? The sensor number 1 is before catalytic converter. That is red value, and you can see it fluctuating from rich to lean condition, and that is healthy behavior of oxygen sensor. So I know my oxygen sensor is good. It should be constantly switching between rich and lean condition, like exactly like that. Now for the sensor number 2, that is this green value, this you don't want to fluctuate. If you see that sensor number 2 voltage is switching exactly like sensor number 1, that means you don't even have catalytic converter in your vehicle, or it is completely damaged. What you want to see is something like that. You can see it is sticking to one value. I mean, the engine isn't completely warmed up. You can see some fluctuation, but you can see it is not dropping to 0.1 volt like this first value for oxygen sensor 1. I am positive that catalytic converter is working fine in this vehicle. And yes, that is live data. Even when you are using just basic code reader, once you get understanding about those engine live data, you would be surprised how many engine issues you can diagnose with this simple cheap tool. Next we have freeze frame data. Freeze frame data are same parameters as engine data. However, the difference is that freeze frame is not changing and you have only one value. And that is directly tied to your OBD fault codes. I don't have any freeze frame data, but essentially what freeze frame data is the live data captured from exactly that moment when the trouble code was stored in the ECU. Now, freeze frame data is not available for every code. Also, it depends on the scanner. The scan tool will usually show more freeze frame data for more codes. If this code was confirmed and not pending, I should also see the freeze frame data list. Okay, then read faults. I am already talking about that. So reading faults from your engine control module memory. You have 3 main types of codes. This is reading current codes. Mode 7 is reading pending codes. So that is basically fault that isn't confirmed yet. Your OBD system still is not sure if it should set diagnostic trouble code or not. So right now it is pending code because it may be detected fault only one time. If it happens again, this pending code will become current code. And then fault codes, also mode 10, that is permanent codes. And these are the codes that you cannot erase because they will be picked up by ECU instantly again. Permanent codes are usually about damaged wiring. Once you have zero voltage coming from the sensor, it will be permanent code. And even though you try erase it, it will just pop back again because the voltage still isn't there. Mode 4 is clearing faults, so that would clear your check engine light. You can erase your codes, and if you have check engine light, you should also be able to get rid of that by erasing codes. Mode 5 is oxygen sensor test. That is basically requesting data about their oxygen sensors. In my opinion, this might be the less useful mode, because if there is anything wrong with your oxygen sensor, simply you will just get trouble code for that. I already said it, I mean, it is kind of useless mode. Yes, you can see different data for oxygen sensors, but there are literally hundreds of different oxygen sensor trouble codes. So I am sure that if anything will be wrong with my oxygen sensors, the OBD system will let me know by setting trouble code. I don't have to spend time looking at these different data. Next we have readiness monitors. Readiness monitors in your vehicle monitors different parts of your exhaust and emissions related systems. So for example, there is oxygen sensor monitor, there is catalytic converter monitor, there is misfire monitor, fuel system monitor. You have a bunch of monitors in the vehicle. What this mode does, it will give you the nice page and show you status for each monitor. You can have 3 different statuses. Either monitor is passed, so everything is okay, monitor not passed, so not okay, and not available. You don't have such monitor in your vehicle. If it's not passed, that could mean not that anything is wrong, but when you clear faults, most of your monitors will become incomplete, and you have to maybe drive your car for a day or two to have them completed again. Good use of the mode 6 is before state emission inspection. If you pull up the readiness page, you have all monitors passed. That is good sign that your car will be able to pass the state inspection. All of them are incomplete for Punto, except of oxygen sensor heater. I'm not sure what is wrong with this vehicle. I think that is because the ECU is bad, because even the live data are acting weird sometimes, and I came to conclusion that ECU is bad. But anyway, mode number 8, that is evap test. That should test your evap system. Evap system is keeping your gasoline vapors sealed. I tried this literally on like 30 different vehicles and it didn't work on any of them. So I don't know, this is completely useless mode in my eyes. As I was saying, it is never supported, and this is the case as well here. And then last we have vehicle information. This will give you VIN number and bunch of other information about your engine control module. You could read VIN number for most cars, it is able to read VIN number. For Punto it is not working, not sure why. And yes, that is your basic OBD modes. And now we can go ahead and I will show you some advanced stuff you can do with your scanner. Okay, so now that you know that basic functions, it's time to check out some more fun stuff and that are advanced OBD2 features. These will be the functions you can use to service modern vehicles, get some more data, do used vehicle check, or even unlock hidden features of your car. Also, good job to sticking to watching this video. I know it is probably long. And before we get into those advanced functions, I have website imcarhacker.com. There is course page. I'm currently working on some new courses and ebooks. So if you really want to take your diagnostic skills to next level, definitely check that page. If this video is just released, it might not be available yet, but soon I will be releasing some of the courses. So when you look at these functions, you are probably thinking that you would have to buy scanner for $1,000 in order to use them, and that is completely false. For example, this ThinkDiag 2, it costs less than $200 and it can do all of them. That is also why OBD2 is so great system compared to OBD1. Much more functionality, less money paid. So let's start with the full scan. What is the difference between full scan and the global OBD scan? Okay, so with basic code reader you can scan just the engine, but if you have better tool, you can do a full scan of all control modules. So if I go to this auto scan, it will go ahead and scan all modules in my vehicle. Top-down RTDiag is extremely quick when it comes to scanning, and you can see we have all our modules scanned. Okay, so that is the difference between scanning with code reader, that is just engine scan. Here you have full scan, so all of your control modules. The same as full scan, full live data means we can access each control module and read the live data in it. I use this function to check out the mileage records. Old vehicles like this Punto won't have many mileage records, but the newer vehicle will have mileage records stored in different control modules. And even with this ThinkDiag, I was able to detect mileage frauds already. I even have one video about that, it will be linked up here. So essentially what you do, you can choose any system you like and you can check every live data parameters in it. For example, I can go to my hybrid module and I can access the live data. So this data stream. And with simple code reader you can read live data only from the engine. With better tool like this that can do full live data, I can go to different modules, for example this hybrid module, and see different live data just for that module. Check it out, all of these data are just for one module. So I can see another list for every of the 30 control modules I have in my vehicle. And that is big difference in comparison to basic engine code reader, which wouldn't show any of this data. The full live data are very useful when you are dealing with faults in other systems and also when it comes to used vehicle check before buying. Because what I can do on modern vehicle, I can find the stored mileage data in multiple control modules and I can make sure that the mileage on the odometer is real and not fake. Next we have service procedures. For example, oil reset, throttle adaptation, EPB reset. If you service modern vehicles, you absolutely need this. For example, on older vehicle, when you're changing rear brake pads, vehicle like this, you simply take off the wheel, change pads, and that's it. However, for a newer vehicle, you will need this EPB service procedure because they have electronic brake calipers and only way to open them is by command from your scan tool. You have also a bunch of other functions like ABS bleeding, adapting new battery, removing your airbag light, steering angle sensor reset, force DPF regeneration. Those are just 8 service procedures, but there is like up to 50 different procedures. Then we have bidirectional function, that is ability to command different components in your vehicle to turn them on or off or operate them another way. So essentially with your scan tool you can test basically every component in your vehicle that is run by electricity. You can test relays, solenoids, fuses, fuel injectors, cooling fan, power windows, really basically everything in your vehicle. So bidirectional means that scanner cannot only read the data from OBD but also give back the commands to your vehicle. Check it out, for example, low beam lights or high beam lights. We can also do door lock. I can test my fuel injectors. I can hear it clicking, so I know it works. This was injector number 1. You get a bunch of other tests. Engine cooling fan. You can test their fuel pump relay. See, so I can hear that my fuel pump is working. And then we have my personal favorite of advanced OBD functions, and that is ECU coding. ECU coding lets you customize different features of your vehicle simply by making change with your OBD scanner. These changes are permanent, so once I make the change, it will work even though I unplug the scanner. What can be done with ECU coding? That is heavily dependent on vehicle model, but most common adjustments are disabling seatbelt warnings, maybe allowing opening windows from your key fob, enabling corner lights, coming home function, so when you unlock the car, the lights would light up for 30 seconds. The most fun functions of ThinkDiag is this customized setting, so ECU coding. These are customization options for my Corolla. Now we have a bunch of these groups, and each of these groups will have some settings that I can change. For example, let's go to warning. I can disable warnings for my key, for seat belts, and I could make some adjustments for my turn signals. Check it out. See, now I have it set to 4, so when I press the turn signal, 1, 2, 3, 4. But what I could also do is select some other value. Oh wait, I have to press this set. Now I can choose within those options. For example, when I pick 7, okay, now it is set to 7, so let me press turn signal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now this is just one simple change. How many changes you could do for your vehicle? That depends on your car model and car year. Newer vehicle will have more changes. German cars will have more changes, like Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, Seat. If you have old vehicle, there will be almost zero change to do. I have maybe 10-12 categories, and each does have some options. For example, power windows. See, here I can enable operating my windows just from key fob with this option, power window up and down with transmit. I already have it on, and that means ability to control my power windows just from key fob. Funny thing is that when I got this car as brand new, this wasn't allowed, so I had to use OBD2 scanner to enable this function. Now you should have basic understanding about what is OBD, how to use it, and what you can do with that. By the way, if you want to save money on buying a scanner, I have completely free PDF which you can download. This complete guide will explain all scanners functions and also list out the best picks that are really greatest value for money, starting from $15. You can download it in link in description, and that will also sign you up for my newsletter. So you will also receive future best scanners I will find.